Fascinating Aaron here to remind you that Don't Worry Darling has been rated R by the MPAA for violence, sexual content, profanity, as well as alcohol and drug use. So Hitler.
Oh my god. You just open with Hitler.
Hi everyone, welcome to the Feminine Byte, where I try to stammer Emily to silence before the episode begins.
I don't like this game.
I'm gonna get more creative with it. I have like drafted ideas.
Oh god. Okay. I'm nervous. I don't want to do this podcast anymore, actually.
You're just not ready for the first 30 seconds being the most unhinged thing that I can find?
Yeah. I'm scared. Mom, can you come and get me? Aaron's acting weird again. No, she's not drinking. She's just trying to scare me.
You know, if I drank or did drugs, I think people would understand me more. I think they'd be like, that makes sense actually that she's like that.
Yeah.
But Why'd you? Aaron, do I need to check you into rehab before you even get started? When she said she's like Pete Davidson, she wasn't kidding.
Oh, this is so funny. This is the best interaction,
Aaron's
honestly.
Aaron's just Pete. Have you seen the I'm Just Pete?
Yeah.
That's what Gina was referencing. I told her.
And I like jugs.
I told her, I don't know if I've told you this story, but I told her that, like, that video made me conclude that there's 3 types of mentally ill people. There's, at the top layer, there's the delusional people who are, like, maybe their parents noticed it when they were kids, got them medicated, but they're, like, the people who are, like, I had depression, but it got cured. And they're, like, the people who don't consider relapses or that it can't be cured or things, so they, like, think that they're better, but they're not. You know, my ex is in that category. And then there's the middle layer, where there is most people with mental illness. They're all in the middle layer. They're doing the things, they're getting their medications, they understand the complexities of it, etc. And when I was telling this to Gina, I went, and then there's the third layer. And she cut me off and went, where Pete Davidson is. And I took a breath, I took another breath, and I said, where I am, where I am so mentally ill that the people in the first 2 layers seem neurotypical. So yeah, I'm just Pete.
I'm just Pete, and I like jugs.
I'm mentally ill, but I'm not on drugs. They were my dad's drugs, and now he's a felon. That's true. Oh, I am on drugs. Shout out to my sister reminding me that I have to take medication. Oh my god, 2 days ago, I went to go take headache medicine because I had a headache. I went to go take headache medication. I took my antidepressants 4 hours early.
Oh.
And those drugs put me to sleep. So I basically, like 2 days ago, was a fever dream. Because I was, like, in and out of it for, like, from midnight to, like, 3 a.m. And then after 3 a.m., I was wide awake.
That's so... Let's just be clear. Midnight to 3 a.m. is Aaron's prime operating hours.
Yeah. I work second shift, so I get home from work at about 10 p.m. So that's, like, the 2 a.m. for you is my 2 p.m.
Yeah.
But, I mean, I should be in bed by 4 to 5 a.m. For me, normally. That's when I'm normally going to bed. I should not be wide awake at 4 to 5 a.m.
No.
So, yeah, that was my night.
Wow.
This week has been a week.
Yeah.
Anyways, let's talk about bathrooms.
Oh, my God. Okay. So we are continuing
All
This is
right.
our 4th episode on Don't Worry, Darling. And we are still not done.
We're gonna try. We're gonna try so hard to get to this end.
Yes. So, I have such a bone to pick with Jack and Alice's bathroom specifically. The main reason that I have a bone to pick with it is because the design of it just does not feel like it is a bathroom made for the 1950s.
Yeah.
At all. Because why in the era of like having such colorful like so much color is this bathroom so devoid of it?
Yeah. I'm googling the bathroom right now. I just need my
Like,
visual aid.
Black walls, black counters, teal tub for some reason.
Yeah, the teal tub fits in, but nothing else.
Right. And I'm like, okay. I'm like, it feels so out of place in the house, but also the time setting that it's supposed to be in, and also like the rest of Victory. Like, it feels so luxe and modern.
Yeah.
For watching this movie so many times, the bathroom is what immediately sucks me out of the delusion of the Victory Project.
Yeah. And the way that the bathtub looks, that's literally when I play The Sims, that's what my bathrooms look like. I do like the little thing around the bathtub so it looks like it fit in. Like, I'm like,
Yeah.
that's how you build a house in The Sims, Olivia Wilde. Also, the mirror, it's very Art Deco. Right? Art Deco, I think that's the.
Yeah. But Art Deco, am I wrong? But Art Deco wasn't like super popular until like 70s, 80s? Or am I
No, they're 50s.
okay?
Because I thought Art Deco's height was actually the 20s. And then it kind of like faded. Because like Bioshock is. I'm pretty sure Bioshock is Art Deco.
Mm-hmm.
And Bioshock is the 50s.
Okay. I don't know my art history very well, so let us just be clear. My degree is not in art history.
Yeah.
But yeah, and
It
then
was prominent in the 1930s and the 1940s.
okay. Okay, so I'm also taking I googled
Yeah.
this stuff. Like, I feel like and listeners, you also might just have to Google "Don't Worry, Darling" bathroom.
Yeah.
But like the counter seam in period, like the counter seam in period, this like stool thing seems in period. Anything from the counter up feels odd.
Yeah, it's just the walls that really.
And like these like exposed shelves also do not feel like the 1950s. The tub and the mirrors do.
Yeah.
And like the fact that the mirrors on the back wall, they do swivel because there is a picture like of Alice in the bathtub where they're fully straight.
Yeah.
And then there's the scene where she's cleaning the bathroom where they're fully like
Yeah. Yeah.
that feels like in period. And I guess looking at the mirror, the toilet is also that teal color.
Yeah. Yeah. And so when we're thinking of this as ergodic literature, it's the things that don't make sense are the things that you want to look at. Because you're like, they're creating, what's the word when you are doing something, but it doesn't sound pretty? It's the opposite of a harmony. Dissonance.
Yeah. Yeah.
We're gonna be able to make a smash cut of every time I go, what's the word? I have a bachelor's in English, guys. When we see dissonance, that's when we're like, there's a reason.
Mm-hmm.
I think honestly, if the walls were like a more white color or a bright color, we would not be so obsessed with this fucking bathroom.
Yeah. If the walls were like a pastel pink,
yeah,
I'd be like, oh yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. So
Or even like a different wallpaper, like a floral wallpaper.
yeah, like not this kintsugi looking thing that we have. So kintsugi, I don't know how to pronounce it. Kintsugi.
I think it's kintsugi.
Kintsugi. Okay. Kintsugi is this Japanese tradition of repairing broken pottery by filling in the cracks with gold. It emphasizes embracing flaws and imperfections that make things more stronger and a beautiful piece of art. So, my theory is that Frank sees women this way, as in the more he breaks them down and puts them together, the more beautiful and stronger they get.
Mmm.
Isn't that icky?
Yeah, just a bit. I wonder too if I wonder how much influence Jack has in the design of his home.
Yeah.
Because just carrying that ideology too, perhaps.
Sorry, I just spilled Pepsi all over myself because I forgot that I had the lid unscrewed.
You're good.
Yeah, because we know that Jack can pick his car.
Mm-hmm. That I don't know, or to is it? I'm wondering if it's not in a way like these men fetishizing broken women.
Yeah.
Like there's something and I mean, Alice in the real world is fairly stable. The thing that is making her unstable is her relationship with Jack.
Yeah.
But Jack sees her as, this workaholic and, this woman that's withholding sex from him. He sees her, as kind of a bitch.
Yeah.
And something to be fixed. Dean sees Bunny grieving the loss of their children.
Yeah.
A woman who, in his eyes, is something to be fixed.
Yeah.
And I mean, obviously, we don't know the backstories of the other women.
I mean, Peg definitely tried to kill Peter, and Peter's like, she's a bit of a fixer-upper.
I can fix her.
It's a minor thing.
Right, I'm wondering if that's not the same for all the other wives, is
did the men perceive them as broken to go in with it?
Right.
Yeah.
Because do they think that broken women will see these men, even despite knowing maybe what the Victory Project is, as their saviors, and therefore stay?
Yeah. Yeah, I agree.
I just pulled that out of my ass, by the way. I just thought of that right now in this moment.
I mean, my other theory about it is that the broken walls are supposed to literally represent shattered glass because the women are fractured. That was my other theory that I wrote down, that the women are literally fractured and that Alice is literally fracturing. But also when you described that the only reason why Alice is unstable is because of the man she's dating, my initial thought was oh yeah, that happened to me with my ex. The only my therapist was or my not my therapist, I can't remember what the title is, but the person who prescribes you medications, that specific
psychiatrist.
Yeah, my psychiatrist was a lot of this will go away when he is no longer in your apartment, Aaron. So we're gonna work on ya, but it's only gonna get better once he's actually gone. Yeah. And then now that I am out of the home that I came into, and now I'm no longer friends with my ex-friends and no longer dating this man, it's suddenly I'm no longer under the thumb of a narcissist, and it's wow, I get to meet me.
Yeah. And then it's also too, I think it carries over, this theme carries over with the mirrors.
Yeah.
Because you see it in, and I think that's the more obvious metaphor here is because you see it in the very initial cleaning scene of Alice. She's hunched over this tub, but there's all of these different angles of her in these mirrors. And then in the bathtub scene, when she wakes up in the bathtub, and then there's that moment where she's sinking back under the water, but then you see
The mirror
the
turn.
mirror turn.
That was one of the best ergodic things Olivia did, because like it's so sweet and simple, and that one, it doesn't actually have to mean anything. That is just a quick display of like, this isn't all that does is tell us that this is not a reality. That's all that head turn does, and it's very effective and it's very good.
Yeah.
But also, I have a thing for you about these mirrors. And this is Aaron specific. This is not specific to anyone else, because in the D&D world I run, and they're by extension the novel that I write in, mirrors in that world remember everything that they have ever seen. And you can go into the mirror realm through the mirrors, and you can talk with the spirits of the mirrors, and they can show you things that they've seen, because they remember everything that they've seen. So once that was established, now all of my players get very uncomfortable around mirrors. They treat them like cameras. That that the mirrors are watching you, and if the things on the other side of the mirror are watching you, and they know that there's someone in the mirrors watching them, so they're always uncomfortable around mirrors. So like when I see those scenes with those mirrors, I'm like, oh, Frank is watching her. But I'm only drawing those conclusions because for me, I think of mirrors like cameras, because in my fantasy world they're effectively cameras.
Well, too, like, that kind of makes me think about, how prominent it is for women to check for two-way mirrors in public spaces.
Yeah.
Like in hotel rooms, you do your little check before you fully settle into a hotel room. You do that in public bathrooms, like places that men have decided are spaces to invade.
Yeah.
Like, ugh, I don't like it. It's gross.
You're not gonna like my novel when you realize that someone's always watching in the mirrors. I always point out every mirror too. Like in my first few books, no one's in the mirrors really watching anyone yet. But like when someone is in there, I plan on going back to all those scenes where there are mirrors.
Oh.
Yep.
I just got chills.
Yeah.
I just got chills.
We're just like, and walks into a brothel, and she's like, there's a mirror that's like on the wall, and there's a mirror above the bed. And I'm like, we'll come back to that.
Oh.
No, I'm not like that. Not like that.
I know.
She's at that brothel to meet another god, and then that other god pisses her off, and she shoves him into a mirror. If my books go viral, I'm gonna traumatize an entire generation with mirrors.
With mirrors.
Okay, we talked about the dinner scene already. That's when Alice was like, Frank is messing with us. That scene went viral on TikTok. So let's talk about that post scene after that dinner party, when we officially change villains from Frank to Jack, and we finally actually get a good movie.
Yeah.
So if you've ever been a victim to like malicious narcissists or self-centered individuals, the post-dinner scene could be triggering. Because it's very accurate. Again, Olivia Wilde, you did your research, golf clap. I was uncomfortable, and that's good. That's good that I was uncomfortable, because I was a victim of a malicious narcissist. So, what happens is that in the post-dinner scene, Alice is basically like, Frank is dangerous, let's run. Jack agrees and then brings her to the car, but he's called the men in red, and Alice is pulled back and is given electrotherapy to like jolt her back into reality, or fake reality, right? So that scene, effectively what's happening is that offenders basically, and this is what Jack has done to Alice, they rewrite your personality, and then they superimpose it on top of you. And they succeed when you start to believe the version that they created of you is actually you. And they do this because the version they created is someone that they can control. You know, I've been known as like an intelligent, generous person who's never trying to hurt people, but with a very hard stance on malicious lying. That's what I'm known for. I've been described as disgustingly kind, and I get very aggressive when people lie to me for bad reasons. But the people narcissists who have attacked me, they decide that I'm like this stupid manipulative monster who would lie, cheat, and steal and do anything to get attention. And that sort of mire can take years to dig out of, because like there was a point in my time where I believed those things to be true about me, because when enough people believe that you are something, you sort of have no choice but to become it. So that's how manipulative people get victims to get stuck. When you're like, why doesn't she just leave him? How could she think that? It's because they have no choice but to become the personality their offender has written for them to be. And it takes years to happen. So, and later we'll see Jack actually superimposing it onto Alice and failing. That's at the very last. So in this post-dinner scene, Alice is so in love with Jack, she basically reiterates wedding vows for better for worse. And that tells us that Victory Alice and Real World Alice, she really did love Jack, which is like the saddest part about it all.
Yeah.
And Alice is begging Jack to leave. Her fight or flight instincts are really kicking in. She knows something's wrong. She's failing to fight her way out. Her next solution is to run, but she still trusts Jack. She doesn't know he's in on it, and that's her mistake. And Jack seems disturbed when Alice is taken away. And then we have the most disturbing scene, which is that Alice is still programmed by Frank. So her dialogue is what she's been programmed to think ideologically, in order to not be punished. So when she is being pulled away, her instinct is, I'm sorry, it's my fault, let me fix it, let me be better. The let me be better, I have literally cried that to my ex before. Because, like, that's where I was in my life. So yeah, the scene is uncomfortable if you've been victimized by malicious narcissists. Like, you need to go in knowing that it's gonna sucker punch you, which is why I wish Olivia just would have done that. It was emotionally raw, but it was also, like, cathartic, and, like, it's cathartic in a way that, like, when media represents your trauma well, it makes you feel comfortable that, like, oh, you're not crazy. Like, they're telling stories about this. Clearly, you're not making it up if we're able to tell fictional stories about it. It's basically confirmation that, like, the things that you went through were actually traumatic. And that's our proof that, like, Frank programs these wives to be emotionally abused, because if your first instinct is let me be better, that's you've been emotionally abused. That's just that whole scene. I don't know, we're on the same level. You get what I mean.
Yeah.
So I didn't realize my notes are basically like, how do manipulators manipulate people? So that maybe hopefully someone watching this will listen to this and be like, oh, maybe that's happening to me, and they'll get out. That's why really I'm saying any of this. So when Alice is pulled away and she's like, let me be better, how that happens in the real world is that an offender can tell the victim that they've done something that upsets the offender. The victim promises to make amends, promises not to repeat the thing that upset the offender in the first place. We're still two adults communicating like adults. Then the offender won't accept the journey. The victim might be perfect the next day, or the victim must be perfect the next day, or else they will get screamed at again. And the victim doesn't realize, and if the victim doesn't realize they're being victimized, it will get to a point where they are yelled at again, and they'll promise to do better because they think that they're constantly failing. When in reality, you know, if you have a problem with me, you say the problem, you expect that, like, I'm not going to be perfect tomorrow. A narcissist expects you to be perfect tomorrow. They actually expect you to be perfect yesterday. They are mad at the fact that you did something wrong, and they will punish you for doing something wrong even if you didn't know any better. So that's how you get people who say, let me be better. I'm sorry. When that instinct comes out, like that is the process, and that process takes months to happen.
Yeah.
Um, and then they're pulling Alice away. It's even so sad because she's like, they're hurting me, and Jack is like punching the steering wheel.
Yeah.
And it's just like, dude, you did this to her. Like, you put her in that position. Why are you upset?
Mm-hmm.
And she's the one who's getting electroshock therapy because of it. And also, the electroshock, that was happening all the time in the 50s, 60s. That was a good nod. That was most believable part of the film. And then we go into the electroshock nightmares, where finally Alice remembers her real life.
Mm-hmm.
Jack is not British. Blah.
So, my question with the electroshock therapy thing is the whole point of the therapy, or this method, is to make Alice forget these things.
Yeah.
Why is she now all of a sudden remembering them instead? And follow-up question to that, why is the electroshock therapy so ineffective? Because you have like maybe one full scene after she gets the electroshock therapy
Before she's out of it.
Before she snaps right back out of it and is like, oh.
Yeah. I do have actual answers for all of those questions if you...
Okay.
Okay, so question 1, why does she remember during the electroshock therapy? She doesn't. Well, she might, but in terms of writing styles and filming and things like that, Olivia she needs a way in to tell us how this actually happened. And so the electroshock therapy, it serves as simply just a transition into the real world. And so, like, when they're shocking her over and over again, you can ascertain that, like, this is the part of her brain that they're attacking. Mm. And so we don't necessarily think that she's remembering these things. All we know is that they're shocking it out of her, and that's the most important part. Olivia kind of wrote herself into a corner. How do you get to that scene? What has to happen for us to get that specific flashback before she gets to the part where she remembers? Yeah. Right? So...
Also, side note, the transition from her being on the table to then her being the surgeon is like my favorite transition I have ever seen.
Yeah, that's film. So good. I didn't realize what was going on for a while.
It was, oh god, it's so, that's like, oh.
It's great filmography.
It's so good. It's so good. Anyway, that's just a little, I just wanted to put that in there.
Yeah, so that is just Olivia kind of wrote herself into a corner, and I think the way that she got out of it was good. I think, I can understand why it would be confusing to someone who, like, I feel so insulting when I'm like, someone who, isn't thinking about this in terms of writing structure. I feel like I'm insulting your intelligence.
No, you literally could never.
But if you're not looking at if you're not looking at it from a mechanical standpoint, I could understand the confusion. Sometimes I'm like, yeah, they wrote themselves into a corner and they were trying to write themselves out. And like, it sort of works. And it works enough. I think most of the audience are like, that kind of makes sense. It doesn't actually matter if Alice is remembering this or not. We know that she's forgetting it, and that's the most important part. Mm-hmm. And then, funnily enough, this game, I've only seen like beginnings of Let's Plays of this one video game, and that it's known for being sort of a letdown. But it's another game that takes place in the 50s. Called We Happy Few, and the only important thing is that they take this drug called joy, and it makes them forget all of their sadness, and so every time I'm thinking about Alice getting electroshocked back into, like, her happy-go-lucky self, I'm like, she's taken joy.
Yeah.
So, that's just a little note. I'll link you a song that's about that video game, and you'll be like, oh yeah, this feels very Don't Worry Darling. And then in The Return of Alice, when Alice gets electroshocked and then she's suddenly happy-go-lucky, she's her old self again, quote-unquote old self, she's been reprogrammed. this is the only time we get some real insight into Bunny. Like the camera holds onto her just a little too long when she's talking to Alice, and that indicates to us that she probably is in on it when she's like holding the cigarette and they like focus on her a little bit too long. And then your favorite scene, the we're gonna go garden. We're gonna go garden? We're gonna go look at plants and drink.
That's so me-core, by the way.
Yeah.
I love, I don't drink, but a woman who is, like, so deeply entrenched in alcohol culture, something about it, like, the way that she does it in such a nurturing way.
Yeah.
I love the way that she, like, has her arm around Alice. She's like, you know we're not gonna garden. We're gonna look at plants and drink. I want to kiss that woman on the mouth.
Yeah.
I need to kiss that woman on the mouth. I love her.
Yeah.
Anyway.
So your second question, she remembers the past, she gets electroshocked, she's now under the effects of joy, she's happy-go-lucky, reprogrammed Alice, and then almost in the next scene, she remembers again.
Mm-hmm.
So your next question was, why does that only last for one scene? So the song that Alice has been humming the entire time clues her into reality.
Mm-hmm.
According to Harvard Health, listening to and performing music reactivates the area of the brain associated with memory, reasoning, speech, emotion, and reward. It helps us retrieve stored memories and helps us solidify new ones. That's why mnemonics work. Do you know what the quadratic formula is? Like the mathematical? I know it off the top of my head because in 8th grade, my teacher gave us a song to remember it. And so now I just know the quadratic formula off the top of my head. It's insane.
Sing the song, Aaron.
X equals the opposite of B plus or minus the square root of B squared minus 4AC all over 2A. It's to Pop Goes the Weasel.
Oh, I do remember that.
Yeah, so it was like, yeah, I learned that, and like, I actually don't think it was 8th grade. I think it was like 7th grade, because I didn't even touch, we weren't even covering the quadratic formula. My math teacher just taught us. So when I was in like 11th grade math, and my math teacher was like, does anyone know the quadratic formula? I rattled it off, and the room was fucking silent. The other important fact here is that I have CPTSD, so I have a very shoddy memory. So the fact that I can remember that is genuinely impressive, and like I'm trying to prove to you that what Harvard is saying is correct. Like there are things that I remember because of songs.
Yeah.
You know, I get to go my whole life being like, I might not remember my childhood, but I sure know what the quadratic equation is.
Yeah.
So when it comes to the idea, can Alice really trigger old memory based on a song? The answer is yes.
Okay.
And it's the best part of the film. The science backs it up. Does it feel forced and rushed? Yes. I think Olivia Wilde wanted the It's My Life scene, but in order to get the It's My Life scene, we needed to stay in the tension of that scene and not go into the flashback at that time.
Mm-hmm.
So she needed to get the flashback earlier. Sometimes I can see what Olivia Wilde was trying to do, and I could tell the corners that she was in, and sometimes it's one of those things where it's like, I wish I could have just been there to help spout off some ideas.
Yeah. Because, like, I think, like, any, like, passive viewer of the movie, like, can at least understand, like, the song is what, like, snaps her back.
Yeah.
But then it's like, yeah, I think maybe my question is just more of a critique of, like, it happened so fast.
Yeah. My beta reader, funny enough, I've read up the novel I'm writing so many times. I'm not trying to promote. It's not even published yet. It's still in beta, but one of my beta readers basically had a similar complaint. They were like, you know, the main character, the pacing, she gets cursed, her life is tragic, she goes to this guy, this god in the brothel, and he gives her hope, and then in the next scene, hope is dashed. And my beta was like, that happened way too fast, and so I had to restructure the novel to, you know, just take away my main character's hope. I just was like, well, you know, it won't feel rushed if she never felt the hope.
Let me be clear. The It's My Life scene is so good. It actually, I think, life-changing. To be quite honest.
Give me one moment. I have to pee like a madman.
Okay. Should I... I'm just gonna keep talking. I don't care if this gets edited out or not. I think that I'm just gonna keep talking. And then we'll pick up with my main point again when Aaron comes back. How are we doing, pod? Are we doing okay? We're, I mean, I don't know how many people are going to be listening to a fourth episode of two women divulging into Don't Worry, Darling. I hope it is a lot because it has been all I can think about. It has been my Roman Empire for like 2 years. Aaron's back.
Hi.
Hi. Did you hear me talking?
I heard vague notes.
Okay. I just kept talking.
I agree, Emily.
So
the
it's my life scene.
it's such a good display of, it's called feminine rage,
Yeah.
and it's just this frustration at women that women feel when men are deliberately trying to hold them back, and their reaction is rage. And plots that come out of this are things like Don't Worry, Darling, but also Promising Young Woman is another.
Oh, I need to see that movie so bad.
We should do a podcast episode of that. I have so much to say about the casting because like the way that they did casting was so genius, because they made all of the villains people who are usually typecast as comedians. Bo Burnham plays one of the bad guys.
Oh, I love Bo Burnham.
It's a scene of feminine rage, and I think that's why I think Olivia Wilde. This was the story Olivia wanted to tell, because that scene was so good. Like I said, the last 75% or the last 25% of this film is just an entirely different film. And it's so good. And like, you know, TikTok sounds, they have like compilations of feminine rage scenes, and like this one is like one of them. If you listen to those TikTok
It's like
sounds.
the most popular one.
Yeah.
Because it just and Florence Pugh's performance of it just encapsulates everything so well.
Yeah.
Like, you are taking this woman who has her whole relationship with this man. You only can assume because of the flashback scene that, you know, she is carrying so much emotional burden because of the man in her life that has decided that as soon as he's down on his luck, that he's no longer going to be himself.
Yeah.
And so she is working with the emotional labor of that, the emotional and literal labor of her being a surgeon.
Yeah.
And then coming home
with him doing weaponized incompetence.
Yeah, coming home, he's weaponizing his incompetence. You know, the water has been broken for so long, and it feels like Jack barely put in any effort to fix it.
Yeah.
He has not eaten and has not made food for her, despite her being on a 12-hour shift and then having to go back and do that
in the morning.
Yeah, less than 8 hours later. And like, you know, just thing after thing. And then after all of that, still having the audacity to ask her for intimacy and sex is, when I tell you that it was so encapsulating of the experience of being a woman in an unfulfilling relationship.
Yeah.
Oh my god, it hit so many nerves with me, with so many, not even just like my most recent ex, but just like with so many other men in my life.
Yeah.
Oh, like the way that I felt seen in that moment. Actually, I think that's part of the reason why I have held on to this movie for so long, is because like
it makes you feel seen.
Yeah, like I know like the first 75% of it is bad. I get that.
Yeah.
But like look at this last 25% of it.
I mean, I literally, you know, an hour ago was giving us step-by-step instructions on how men manipulate women to be like Alice. I was giving I had a professor's lecture of like, so this is how it happens, because like that was my life.
Yeah.
And like that part, it was so good.
Like the Barbie movie, in the way that women feel seen, the same feeling applies to Don't Worry, Darling, but in like a much more like
Do you
exhausted way.
remember when I leaned to you in the theater and said that Don't Worry Darling was the psychological horror companion to the Barbie movie?
It truly is. Yeah.
So, my last ex, whom I shared this apartment with that we're sitting in right now, I think because he thought that he was going into his specific profession, which was making a lot more money than me, and because I wasn't making as much money, I think he thought that I would be doing more of the household work because he went into teaching, so he was a school teacher. And so I think that he thought because he made more money and because he had more work, quote unquote, that in return I would be doing more of the household things. And he would do things where he would be like, he got mad at me once because apparently I left little pieces of trash everywhere. And when I asked him for an example, he said, "One time you left a napkin over there and I thought you were going to throw it away, but you didn't." And then I was like, "So why didn't you say anything?" And he was like, "Cuz you should just know." And it's like, people aren't like that. And then, in that same week, there's this McDonald's cup that is just sitting on the coffee table, and it's sitting there and sitting there and sitting there, and I tell him, "Are you going to throw away your cup?" And he went, "Oh, I thought that was yours." Told me everything I needed to know about the you leave little pieces of trash everywhere. I don't. He does. He wants me to clean it up. I agree with you with like all of this, the incompetence and all of that stuff. Like, as someone who like gave up something I genuinely loved and made a financially stupid decision for someone that I loved, and then it completely backfired on me because he was an asshole.
And here's the other thing that I'll say about like weaponized incompetence as it relates to like specifically men. I think that these household things like, cleaning up after yourself, doing the dishes, doing your laundry, all of these things. These are learned skills. And I'm not going to sit here and like say that it is common knowledge to know these skills,
Yeah.
because there are people out there who has maybe never learned, B has executive function issues,
Yeah.
or like a myriad of other things where they just never learned how to do these things. But the issue is when it comes to specifically, in most cases, men,
Yeah.
if they either don't learn it or have not learned it, they don't seem to care about learning it because the people around them will just do it for them anyways.
Yeah.
Or they have learned it and they do know it, but they don't want to. And so in that case, weaponize their incompetence a little bit in a more malicious way, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Because it is, well, I'm just going to do this wrong. And I know that I'm doing this wrong.
So that she does it for
so
me.
that, yeah, she picks up the pieces for me.
Yeah. And like with men like Jack, like my ex, like your ex, they just decide things for you. Again, like I said, they rewrite your personality and they superimpose it onto you so that way you become it, right? So like, because my ex thought that he was the breadwinner, therefore I should be doing more of the housework. That comes with this assumption that I'm not making good money, right? And it also, he thought that entire time that I was really bad with my money. It happened so often that in the post breakup, every time I go to buy soap, like bars of soap around my friends, they all go, "Oh no, Erin, the financially irresponsible spender, buying soap," because my ex yelled at me the first summer we dated that I was bad with my money, and the only thing I bought myself that summer was a bar of soap. Like a nice bar of soap from a gift shop. That was the only thing I bought that summer. And like, he said I was bad with my money the entire relationship. But like, I regularly have $6K in my savings account constantly. my entire time I've always had 6K. I was having 6K on minimum wage. I don't get minimum wage anymore, but at the time I was like on minimum wage and I was like, no, that's fucking impressive. I'm fucking great with my money. But when men just with their incompetence and their weaponized incompetence and them superimposing incompetence onto their wives, they just get these ideas in their head and then they punish you for it.
Yeah.
Because they've just believed the version of you that they've created.
Right. My ex, when we were, quote unquote,
This is a
long.
therapy session.
I know. Quote unquote, long distance. We were only an hour away from each other.
Yeah.
He was living with his parents while he went to school.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, his dad was charging him rent in a sense, but it was like maybe $100 a month.
Yeah.
Just, you know, for the room that he occupied. They never charged him anything for, you know, utilities or you know, meals that they had together or anything like that.
Yeah.
And I remember so specifically there was this one summer where we almost got into a fight. My ex and I never fight. And that was what I didn't know was a kind of a red flag.
Yeah.
Because I was just such a pushover that
Yeah.
I just did whatever he wanted. That's a whole other tangent. But we almost got into a fight, our first fight, because he was complaining that his stepmom was like having to continually ask him to do the dishes. And I said to him, I said, it makes sense though, because you are living in her house. Whether you like this woman or not, being your stepmom or not, that is her house that she has bought with your dad.
Yeah.
It is her space that she is letting you exist in. And what, you're just going to complain because you don't want to wash the dishes that you made eating her food?
Yeah.
That's messed up.
Yeah.
And he was also a little bit of a pushover. So he was just kind of like, I guess. Like, he kind of just, like, brushed it off.
Yeah.
But it just was so...
jarring.
In that moment, I kind of realized, I'm like, well, if I live with this person, I'm going to have to take over, you know, all of these responsibilities. And I even did it, too, when we weren't we never lived together, but when I was in his live space, I did, you know, a little bit of the cleaning of his dorm room.
Yeah.
I shouldn't have to do that. That's not my space.
Yeah. I had my ex, Andrew, I only list him by name because we have a fine relationship. You know, he never went into the specifics about why he broke up with me, but I absolutely know one reason is that I was not good at cleaning up after myself or helping cooking or doing any of those things. It wasn't weaponized incompetence. I was simply very depressed and incompetent.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, him breaking up with me was the correct choice. I was like, no, I was like the worst kind of girlfriend to Andrew. And, I mean, ultimately he wanted other things that I could not provide because I can't have children, and he wanted a family. And so, like, that, but also as I reflect on my relationship with Andrew, I was like, no, the correct thing for you to do was to break up with me. I'm very glad you did. And, you know, I was able to learn from that. The fair parts of breaking up with me, you know, as someone with depression, it's so hard to do certain things, and I get why he didn't want to be around someone with that. So, like, I said his name, didn't I? I'll bleep that out.
Yeah, you did.
If you're not emotionally mature enough to deal with somebody who has these kinds of problems, you should leave. That's the only fair part that I had with him breaking up with me. It was unfair that he used my words against me, which is how I'm gonna circle us back into Jack. Is that Jack uses Alice's words against him. In the car right before she gets pulled out, she's like, it doesn't matter where we are as long as we're together. And so when Jack is like, I gave this to you! Yeah. We're lucky to be here! He says to her, it doesn't matter where we are, only that we're together.
Yeah.
That is just classic manipulation. I broke up with someone because they were mentally unwell, but the thing for me was that they were refusing to get help. And I was like, I can't be with someone who isn't trying and isn't trying to get help. And then when my ex broke up with me, he was like, you can't get mad at me. You broke up with somebody because of something like this. The clear difference, though, being like, I am absolutely trying, I'm always trying to be mentally well. I've never just tried to give up. So, oh, it was so uncomfortable. I hate it. I hate it. I hate it. I hate Jack. I love Jack as a character. I mean, you know what I mean. He's a well-written character, but man,
Yeah.
is he too close for comfort? The answer is yes.
Yeah. The vertical screen of Discord in the flashback. Chills.
Yeah.
Actual chills.
Yeah.
We'll bring this back to Don't Worry, Darling.
Yeah, yeah. You know, it's just a therapy session. It's okay. No one's gonna listen to these episodes anyways.
Well, we're gonna get famous one day, and then these clips are just gonna get drawn out.
I want it to be the clip that
our
says,
exes are gonna get doxxed.
I want it to be the clip where I go, Andrew, you made the right choice with breaking up with me. Cut to Andrew.
Oh God, that'll be so funny.
That's okay. If I become really, really famous, Andrew, you can profit off me. You deserve that. You deserve that. Tell me what your next video game is. I'll say I'll start promoting it for free for what you had to deal with me. You deserve that.
My ex deserves no compensation. No.
We don't
not a single thing.
We don't stand any of our exes except for Aaron's ex, Andrew. You made the right decision in leaving me.
Andrew, you were right. Everybody else, terribly wrong.
Get fucked.
Get bent.
This is a small detail. Shelly only kills Frank when Shelly realizes Colin is dead. Why? I want to know. Olivia, please send your answers. My business email is linked to the YouTube account. You can email me there. I will be expecting it.
Well, in the motivation of like Shelly wanting to take over for Frank, knowing that Collins is dead, Collins is like her next barrier.
Yeah.
After Frank.
It's like you know, it's like killing the vice president before killing the president.
Yeah.
And Shelly is the Speaker of the House.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like...
I just pulled that out of my ass.
So, like, that's... I mean, but that is, I think, the motivation is she's like, oh, well, if the man that I am currently not living with in the house with the knives is dead, then the man that I live in with the house with the knives... It's time to go.
Right, yeah.
Also, Colin's death is so stupid.
Yeah, they just needed to get rid of him.
Yeah. If we're gonna criticize, like, the last bits of this movie, it is...
Yeah. We should say the last 25% is good, up until, like, when Collins dies, then it starts getting stupid.
Again, yeah.
Because
like...
Because then it's still... Then we go back to it being about the sim. When we return to the part that it's a sim.
Like, why are we having these two cars driving towards... Technically their boss.
Yeah.
And then they just, like, don't... They don't even try to stop. They don't try. Collins doesn't try. The red men don't try. Like... Anyway.
I've got so many questions. Just that, you know, it really does trip at the end.
Yeah.
These are some of my misc questions. If Frank can control the women's backstories and physically manipulate the world, does he also control their sex drives? Is this a game of Sims? Is he telling Alice and Jack to woo-hoo? Alice dresses more and more casual in her cleaning scenes as the movie progresses. She's pretty, and then she's semi-casual, and then she's cleaning in her nightdress. Jack says to Alice, I'm a part of something important, Alice. When Alice freaks out, Jack emphasizes that if Alice keeps acting out, Jack could lose his job. Again, misogyny. Jack's last name is Chambers. Chambers is an antiquated term for somebody's bedroom.
Mm-hmm.
Icky.
Oh, what was the question before that? I was
Well,
gonna say something.
does Frank control the women's sex drives?
Was that the question?
Yeah, like is this a game of The Sims where he's
Or
asking them to woohoo, or are we talking about the dresses?
what was the one with the dresses?
It's just that Alice progressively gets more casual as she cleans.
I'm losing my mind, I think, because I had something, and then
You looked like
oh no, okay, so it was about like Jack saying like he's part of something important.
Oh yeah.
I think that the fact that they don't tell the women what the Victory Project is, they should have ran into these issues so much earlier
Yeah.
than Alice. Because why would a woman just like believe their husband about like, oh yeah, I'm part of this like super secret company, but
Yeah,
here's this nice house. Here's all these clothes that you don't need to buy.
Yeah, like what is the development of progressive
I would
materials?
if I was yeah, right. If I was a woman in this world, I would immediately assume mafia.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, and then you find out that the development of progressive materials is them. They're the development.
mm-hmm. Ugh. Ugh.
Yeah.
Gross. Like, I don't understand like how so many women have stayed in this for so long.
Part of it's gotta be the programming.
Yeah.
Other misc notes. Jack gets promoted, and it's probably just to put pressure on Alice to behave, because now Jack has more to lose.
Mm-hmm.
During the scene when they discuss what the men do in the shopping scene, when doubt is sown, Bunny takes back control and emphasizes the indoctrinating ideology of the women, taking care of the men at the home and the men changing the world to keep women calm.
I want to know what the Victory Project's work like flow chart looks like.
Yeah.
Like I want to know the supervisors. I want to know the supervisors of the supervisors. What's the entry level position? How do we move up?
Yeah.
From this? Because they're just like these men are just given promotions like left and right.
Yeah.
It feels like
Yeah.
for no reason.
It feels like it's not well thought out, and it's one of those things where it's like Olivia needs to write everything down and have answers to all these questions, even if she never explicitly tells us, because you can tell when you don't answer those questions and you pretend that you have. You
Right.
get problems like this.
Like you can only assume based off of the one scene like of Bunny and Alice watching Bill and Violet move in. Bunny says something about, like it feels like it is implied that Dean recruited Bill in some way and that's why he got a promotion. And so when Dean says that Jack is like getting really close to getting a promotion and Alice replies with I hope so.
Yeah.
Like is it like a pyramid scheme where like recruiting is
Yeah, like I want like an MLM.
right.
Another note I have is it becomes clear that Bunny's job is to keep women in line, which is why Alice doesn't invite Bunny to the dinner, but she invites Peg. Because Alice knows that Frank and Bunny don't like Peg, so she invites Peg to that dinner.
Period.
Which I was like, that's funny. And then, are the women who work as models real women or trapped in the sim? On the one hand, it would be easier for Frank to simulate the women. We know that the children are simulated. On the other hand, it would make sense within Frank's god complex ego to kidnap real women and program them to be the models in Victory.
Yeah.
So what do you think? Do you think that those models are real people or do you think they're Sims?
I had a similar question in terms of like all of the other like employees of Victory. I think that they're fabrications of the system.
Yeah.
Because especially like if you're thinking about like the models, but the trolley driver, I feel like the trolley driver is at least significant in the way of, Alice is like, why can't we go out there if we obviously like see this disaster happening?
Yeah.
He almost quite literally short circuits.
Yeah. It's so good because you can tell that he's like breaking, like his programming is breaking, and it's good, but like I need more evidence.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I think I want the women to be real, so that way that the woman who is stripping when Alice sees her like in the sim and then also in the tennis outfit, like that her agency has been stripped and she's stripping. I love that imagery so much
Mm-hmm.
that I have just decided to believe those women are real because I like that imagery and I want that to be intentional.
Mm.
I've decided. The rest of my notes are just some comparisons to a video game. So are which I'm gonna sell you on because the comparisons are uncanny. So, is there any last minute things that you want to discuss or you want to bring out about Don't Worry, Darling before I take us into Crazy Town?
I think that's pretty much everything.
Okay, I'm gonna use the bathroom. You can take a look to just contemplate, make sure everything.
I'm just gonna go through my little section in my notes of the things that Don't Worry, Darling does really well. Because we have been ragging on it, but I do want to make it very clear that I love this movie very, very much. The biggest thing is, I think the use of non-diegetic sound and music in this movie is just stuff that, I had never seen before. I think that, so much of background music, especially once you get to the climax of the movie, is very iconic to the movie of like, it sounds like these women panting. I think that was masterfully done. The camera work and the visuals of this movie are phenomenal and kind of gaslit me into loving this movie so much. The exact moment of Alice walking into the cul-de-sac with blood on her dress and they kind of start replaying the moment of these men saying, whose world is it? Ours. Whose world is it? Ours. Whose world is it? And then Buddy screams, Alice! One of my favorite moments in cinematic history, to be honest. Acting is great. People do criticize Harry's performance, and we have in this podcast, but
Gina said it best.
I think that his "I gave this to you" speech,
I thought
that
it was
whole
really
thing,
good.
that's fantastic. The motifs of Jack and Alice's like coupley things that they do, I think is very real. Like, I feel like there are so many couples that just have like these little inside jokes or these little things that they do, and I think that they do that really well with the song that they hum together, and also like the lip thing of like them brushing each other's lip. Oh my god, that's so like that would definitely be something like a real life couple would do.
Yeah. You know that song, the like, I would never fall in love until I met her, that song?
Yeah.
Whenever my boyfriend hears it on the radio, he like takes a video and sends it to me.
Oh, that's really cute.
Because my boyfriend lives out of state, and when we were driving together, when I went to go visit him, it was on in the car.
Oh, that's
I'm
really
like, this
cute.
is the. I was like, this is gonna be the song that we dance to at our wedding, isn't it?
Yeah. The eye imagery in this movie.
Yep.
Oh god, it works so well.
Very
because
1984.
yeah, you're looking at this eye imagery and especially like the dancing in kind of like the phase in sequence, and you don't really think a lot of it until there is the reveal of the actual device that brings in the simulation.
Yeah.
Oh my god, it's so good. And also the little nods that Alice gives throughout the movie to the eye devices. She does it twice. The moment that she like rubs her eyes, you don't think about those things in the moment, and then when you go back through the movie after you know the reveal, those little things just become so loud.
Yeah, and the little thing with Margaret when the curtain swipes and then you see Alice.
Yes. Oh my god, it's so good. It's so good. So I just think that like some of those little like minor details, I think Olivia Wilde does a really good job of working out like the minor things and has an issue with like the bigger picture.
Yeah. Yeah. Like I said, the characters with the least amount of lines delivered the best performances. Dean and Peg.
Period.
And
that's on period. Shout out to Nick Kroll. Anyway, we can descend into madness now.
Alright, we're officially descending into madness now as I'm going to present my argument that... I'm just going to read you this premise, okay?
Okay.
A man decides to reject modern society and its rules to build a city that he controls, only allowing in like-minded individuals to enter. The city cannot survive without its group of females who have been mentally indoctrinated to believe this city is a beautiful paradise meant for their prosperity, who are protected by the men in their lives despite the fact the men can see through the illusion into the horror of what this place really is. Everything changes when the self-aware individuals start to cause rifts and infighting that ultimately leads to the self-destruction of this city. Enemies attempt to wrestle for control of this city, but it falls into disrepair. And in the end, it is the female group, which the city relied upon, which causes the great downfall of the city, killing the very man who entrapped them and escaping back into the real world. That's the plot of Bioshock.
I hate it here. Let me just say that real quick.
So this is a disclaimer. Don't worry, darling. Did not steal from Bioshock. I don't think Olivia Wilde knows what it is. However, you could theorize that Frank has played Bioshock and thought he could recreate Rapture but better. He sees himself as Frank Fontaine, who's the name of the villain. But in Frank's version, you know, he doesn't die the way that Frank Fontaine does in the video game. So Don't Worry, Darling and Bioshock, they deal with a lot of the same themes. They're set in the same time period. And I think it's because, you know, we got this way because Olivia Wilde's inspiration for Frank was Jordan Peterson, who I did research to try to figure out what his philosophy is, and he basically is like, I don't have a philosophy. He's an objectivist. If they say they don't have a philosophy, they're an objectivist. And that's on God. Same themes, set in the same time period. I think the year it takes place in is technically 1960, but, like, the city fell into disrepair in 1959. So it's a 1950s city. And I shit you not, the second Bioshock game, the antagonist is a woman who managed to get control of the city to turn it into her own house of horrors. You know, kind of like how Shelley takes it over from Frank.
Yeah.
I'm gonna keep going and you're gonna get mad as I hit plot point after plot point.
I'm starting to not like this episode.
So, I first noticed this connection with Frank's radio broadcasts. The radios are an iconic part of the Bioshock series. Andrew Ryan, the city founder, wanted his underwater city of Rapture to be preserved, so he gave everyone tape recorders to record their stories. And Ryan records a lot of his ideological rhetoric this way, the same way that Frank spouts nonsense on his radio. Frank's ideology for the men is objectivist, where the women, it's the reverse: subversion, submission, and inaction. Bioshock is inspired by Ayn Rand philosophy. She's the founder of objectivism. The entire game is about objectivism gone wrong, and basically so is Don't Worry, Darling. The iconic phrase of Bioshock, which describes what objectivism is no gods or kings, only man, and a man is entitled to the sweat on his brow. You know, we discussed this earlier. Objectivists believe that there should be no rules. I should be able to do what I want.
Whose world is it ours?
Yeah, whose world is it ours? He believes laws like don't traffic people are arbitrary and unfounded.
No way.
That's what Frank feels. I'm talking about our Frank. Not my Frank, your Frank.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. You know, he finds those... Actually, I lied. Both Franks feel that way, now that I've thought about it. You know, both Franks feel that men should be able to take what they want, succeed. The government shouldn't have the right to stop them because of petty morals and human rights. Victory is, you know, this simulation city in the digital sea, whereas Rapture is a city hidden at the bottom of the sea. Like, the imagery is there. Now, Most people who criticize Bioshock says it takes objectivism out of context because it's fictional and an unlikely scenario to happen. But Atlas Shrugged does the same thing, but in the opposite way. They're like, objectivism in a fictional world, but it works because Ayn Rand wrote this book and she wants objectivism to work. So anyone who says that Bioshock is critiquing it just because it can go get fucked. But ultimately, Rapture the City and Victory fall apart because objectivism's major flaw is that in order to not be poor, you have to do whatever it takes to get power, including stepping on your fellow objectivists. Frank Fontaine in Bioshock wanted power and money and control, and that meant turning the people of Rapture against Andrew Ryan, the city founder, so that Frank Fontaine could take it for himself. In No Gods or Kings, Only Men, Ryan became the king, and Frank wanted to out him for being the successful objectivist. So in Don't Worry Darling doesn't have this cycle of objectivist becoming king and then becoming ousted by the new objectivist because Frank is actually a genius. He erased inequality in the simulation to prevent the new objectivist from showing up and ousting him as king. That's why I'm like, Frank is so smart. Sometimes part of this simulation doesn't make fucking sense, but other times he does so many smart things that I'm like, I can't help but be impressed.
Ugh.
So that's just the philosophy, right? And the core problem people have with objectivism is that not all objectively better things are morally correct to do. Humanity doesn't need to aspire to be objectively better. We just need to be functional. We can survive as an imperfect race and lead with our empathy, and that's why our morals is often called our humanity. Why morally correct options are called the humane options. Like, being imperfect is okay. Objectivists just want us to do the quote-unquote objectively better thing regardless of morals. This quote is how to describe the problems with objectivism, and the answer is going to be the women in Victory. Frank Fontaine, he says this quote, which is, "These sad saps, they come to Rapture thinking they're going to be captains of industry, but they all forget that somebody's got to scrub the toilets. What an angle they gave me. I hand these mugs a cotton bowl of soup, and they give me their lives. Who needs an army when I have Frank's Home for the Poor?" And in Don't Worry, Darling, the answer, who scrubs the toilets in Utopia? The answer is the women.
The women.
They cook, they clean, they take care of the children. It's their job to do the undesirable jobs of Victory that Frank believes are integral to the female gender. Everything else is a simulation, like the models and the trains and the things like that. So, and objectivism's biggest problem is who scrubs the toilets. Because somebody has to. So, Bioshock is a city where they experiment on themselves. They basically kind of use genetics to create superpowers effectively. Through a splicing process called Atom, and it's this underwater sea slug. The drug is addictive, which makes people who splice addicts. So the slugs cannot produce enough Atom to be useful, and then they found out through human experimentation that little girls can host these slugs in their stomachs, and they produce enough to create this drug to give them superpowers. And so these little girls, much like the women of Victory, became the most integral part of Rapture, and the downfall of Rapture happens because of these little girls. And Jack, the main protagonist of Bioshock, he basically has two choices when it comes to these little girls called the Little Sisters. He can either use this cure to help them stop being these little atom factories and basically give them more autonomy, or he can remove the sea slug, take the atom, and kill the canon ending, because this has multiple endings, if you sacrifice all of the Little Sisters, you get the bad ending. If you save them all, you get the good ending. It's really funny that Bioshock canonically was the good ending's the canon ending. We're not even entertaining the other one. That one doesn't fucking matter, which was so funny.
Yeah. That
Jack saves the little girls, and he spends his entire life just helping these little sisters. Objectivist ideology says the only route to human progress is sacrificing the little girls, and it should be made, right? Adam objectively makes life better, but it comes at the moral cost. And so in our comparison of Bioshock and Don't Worry, Darling, the wives effectively hold the space of the little sister. They make Victory possible, and if you give them back their humanity, the city falls apart because Victory made itself too reliant on the wives. To the objectivist, if human progress needs women to be obedient, that's what should happen. The development of progressive materials is code for trafficking women into fucking victory.
Oh, God.
And you might be wondering, who found this magical chemical in this video game to, like, trap all of these women? What was that man's name? It's Frank. Frank Fontaine, he does it. He creates the Little Sisters. And that's why I compare Frank to Frank Fontaine and not Frank to Andrew Ryan, the city creator. Because Frank Fontaine is a swindler and a con man and charismatic and evil, and he's much more like Frank than Frank is to Andrew Ryan, the creator. And Alice, basically, she takes on the role of the little sister. She innocently perpetuates the delusions of victory. Even when you try to save the little sisters, they cry out in fear when you attempt to because she's so programmed to associate contact with violence, and in a similar way, Alice is programmed to believe any doubt that in victory is dangerous. She can't doubt victory, that's dangerous. So the behavior of the Little Sisters and Alice is very similar. When Little Sisters are cured, when Alice realizes the truth, there's no going back. The Little Sisters and Alice have reclaimed their humanity, and they will kill in order to keep it if pressed. The Little Sisters do actually fucking kill Frank at the end. These little girls come out. These little girls have hypodermic needles. Needles that are this big, that they stab into corpses to harvest this drug out of people who overspliced. They're like trying to get the leftover drug. At the very end, all these little girls show up with these fucking needles and they just stab Frank to death with it. It's so poetic. So in that scene, you know, Frank Fontaine is about to kill you, and all of these little sisters come out to protect you. Because you're the one who gave them their humanity back, and they're willing to fight for you. Don't worry, darling, it's not exactly the same because obviously Jack accidentally gives Alice her humanity back, and Alice accidentally kills Jack, but we still see the idea of creation killing the creator in order for us to regain our humanity. And I'm also going to show you a picture of what Frank Fontaine looks like, because you're going to go, that's Chris Pine.
Oh, God. That is Chris Pine. With dark hair, but yeah.
Yep. In Bioshock, the actual scientist who discovers the Little Sisters, like, Frank Fontaine, he backs it with the money, but the actual scientist who, like, does all the experimentations, her name's Dr. Tenenbaum, she eventually regrets her life choices and decides to help the protagonist to save the Little Sisters. Basically, she plays the role of Bunny, the person who is complicit in it, and it has her come into Jesus moment, and is like, well, maybe I should not be participating in this. Because, you know, at the end, Bunny is the one who helps Alice escape, Tenenbaum helps Jack and the Little Sisters escape. Another villain that has parallels is Dr. Suchong with Collins. Collins is like the doctor who does all the awful shit. Suchong in Bioshock is the man who basically experiments on the protagonist, you, Jack. Like, as a small child in order to, like, build you into a weapon of mass destruction. He's, like, infamously evil, no redeeming qualities, also killed by his own creations, which is exactly how Dr. Collins dies. Again, the parallels are all here. I know you're so tired of me talking about this, but, like, I've been thinking about this for weeks. And then some smaller other just details. The eccentric artist, Sandra Cohen, is obsessed with bunnies, and we have a character named Bunny, and Alice is an Alice in Wonderland reference. The little girls that become Little Sisters are trafficked into it, much like the Wives of Victory. Frank Fontaine and Frank himself, they're both deceptive grifters who pretend to be people that they're not. Frank's false persona throughout the most of the game is Atlas. The main character, they're both named Jack in Don't Worry Darling and Bioshock. Jack, the main protagonist of Bioshock, has a false backstory written into his mind, just like the Women of Victory. Both Rapture and Victory are in shambles at the end, but not completely destroyed. Both Andrew Ryan and Frank founded their cities to get away from government interference and were both killed by someone in their family. The main protagonist of Bioshock is Jack Ryan, Andrew's son. Frank is killed by his wife. Jack Ryan, in the bad ending, takes over the city basically kind of how Shelley wanted to, so there's parallelisms there, and then they both take place in the 50s. The parallels are so close that I was like, bro, and then I went onto the internet, and everyone was like, yeah, if you liked Bioshock, you'll probably like Don't Worry Darling, and if you liked Don't Worry Darling, you'll probably like Bioshock, which everyone should like Bioshock. It's one of the best games of all time. And I went on that all because freaking radios, and I was like, this sounds like Andrew Ryan going, "It's a man not entitled to the sweat on his brow," and that's exactly how that man said. The parasite says,
"We move." We are not looking backwards. We're pushing forward.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right? Yeah. Like, it's great. Bioshock is also a very spooky game, though. I don't have the stones to play it by myself because I am scared of my own shadow.
I'm not good at spooky.
Neither am I.
My friend wants to see the Five Nights at Freddy's movie, and I had told her specifically that she has to hold my hand.
Yeah.
Because I won't.
I watched Alex Meyer's video on it. It's kind of basically like trauma porn. They're like, how tragic could we make this? And then they turned that up to 12.
Yeah.
So, as long as, if you can get past the fact that the stakes are weirdly very high and a little uncomfortable. Like, I know what the gotcha of Five Nights at Freddy's is. I'm not even talking about that part. Like, I know what the thing is about Five Nights at Freddy that makes it, you know, psychologically horrifying.
Mm-hmm.
It's everything around that is just so dramatic when it doesn't need to be. But I mean, like, I assume that as a movie that is just sort of referential and, like, you know, it does what it does. I refuse to engage with Five Nights at Freddy's content. That's like my line.
That's fair.
Like, the Scary Game Squad, which, you know, my Lord and Savior Jesse Cox runs, they've done a Five Nights at Freddy's episode. It's the only episode of Scary Game Squad I haven't seen. I absolutely refuse.
You know, that's fair. It's because over, like, 2021, me and my friend, this friend that I'm going to see the movie with, just interacted with so much security breach content.
Yeah.
Like, all of the Freddy, you're supposed to be in lockdown memes, and, like, all of the memes about the fucking alligator.
Yeah.
And, like, all of... Gator golf. Like, all of that shit. And...
Yeah.
Kind of just, like... Also, just our general love for, like, Markiplier. Like, sent us back into, like, a Five Nights at Freddy's thing.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
It's so funny, like, MatPat is actually in... He has a cameo in the Five Nights at Freddy's movie, which is so funny, because his game theory is, like, iconic for how many episodes he has done on Five Nights at Freddy's. And, like, I have never seen a single episode. I was like, yeah, I love the game theorists. I've never interacted with
I've never watched a Five Nights at Freddy's video by Game Theory. Also, love MatPat.
Love MatPat.
Oh, God, I love MatPat.
I love MatPat so much. I only watch one YouTuber and then occasionally like MatPat, because like sometimes, you know, there's a couple of video games that MatPat has done that Jesse Cox has not done, and so that's where I've interacted with it. But yeah, I mean, it's just Jesse Cox, and then occasionally I'll watch MatPat.
I think that we should... This episode is getting kind of lengthy right now, but I just throwing the idea out there is we should do a crushes episode, or like
I don't have a crush on Jesse Cox,
or maybe you should, because then we can have a crushes episode. It'd be fun.
I mean, I can still talk about why I love that man and would pay real money to like.
Listen, here's the thing. I consume my content in a much thirstier vein.
Yeah.
All of the movies that I watch are because actors that I love are in those movies.
Yeah.
I want to watch entire filmographies because of one actor.
Yeah, yeah.
I I need a little bit of help, I think.
I don't think we need to do an episode just dedicated on your crushes, because I think we're just going to end up in like 30-minute tangents.
Maybe.
About them anyways.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. And then we can make a supercut of them.
Our supercuts are me going, what's the word for when you, and then supercuts of you just talking about Nick Kroll.
Nick Kroll, Michael Sheen, David Tennant.
There's a large population of people going to see this Five Nights at Freddy's movie because Josh Hutcherson is...
Oh, I don't care. I do not care about Josh Hutcherson in the slightest.
In this film, he's hot in the same way that Metro Man in Megamind was hot when his life fell apart.
Yeah.
That's the kind of hot Josh Hutcherson is in the Five Nights at Freddy's movie.
I don't foresee myself being a Josh Hutcherson girly.
No, I was never...
I might be eating those words, but I don't think I see myself as.
That's fair. I didn't even like him much when, during the Hunger Games. I guess I also didn't find PETA very hot in the Hunger Games either. Just, in general. PETA's got Riz, but,
nothing to back it up with.
This is how I know that I'm bisexual, because I'm like, Katniss is so hot, and she thinks these love interests, they're just, the ugliest men on the planet. They're just the men who are there.
Yeah.
Girl,
raise
your standards.
You can do better.
Yeah. Well, actually, I take that back. Maybe she does need to date mid-men, because they made Snow unnecessarily hot in the prequel, and I don't know what Suzanne Collins was thinking.
Yeah.
It's why did you make him hot? There are so many things in the Hunger Games that I want to know. Snow's origin story was not one of them.
Yeah.
I don't care about Snow. I don't care about Lucy Gray Baird. I literally could not care at all, actually, in the slightest.
Yeah.
So, we're finally done with Don't Worry, Darling. We did it. We got through.
4 episodes later.
Thank you for sitting through my Bioshock rant.
Of course. Thank you for sitting through every single Nick Kroll rant. I love him
I will
so
sit through
much.
every Nick Kroll rant. Oh. You need to be validated in your crush, because girls should be able to like things without society telling them that they're weird. You're allowed to be manic in this household.
I love being manic.
That's just what, we're known for.
If we create merch, it should be you're allowed to be manic in this household. It should be.
Fun fact, our podcast name was Almost Manic Pixie Dream Girl.
Yes.
Alright, this has been The Feminine Byte. I am your host, Erin, with my co-host, Emily.
And Echo.
And Gina. Gina was actually in this episode. Or maybe she was in the last one. I don't know. She was here. We will see you next time where we talk about girl man.